Good morning, everybody. It's the end of April, and I have the chart up for May 1st, 2019. And I have decided to go through just a short little view on world history when Pluto and Saturn, right here, or with the South Node. Here's the North Node at 25 degrees Gemini, and right now the Saturn is at 25 Sag, conjunct Ketu, and Pluto. This is sidereal, not tropical. I just wanted to point out a few things that is happening in history and has happened throughout history when Pluto is with the South Node. Now, usually I have tried to find when Pluto and Saturn are together in the South, with the South Node in Sagittarius. And it's been a little bit tricky. Sometimes Saturn is there and sometimes it's not. Obviously, it's every 250 years that Pluto takes to go around and be in Gemini. So that would take us from the year 2019 back to 1759, 1517, and then 1275. I don't think Saturn was there at 1275. So I've looked at a variety of history, not enough, but some, just to give you just a brief overview on what we could be expecting throughout this year with Saturn and Pluto conjunct the South Node. Now, as we know, the North Node is Rahu, or the head with no body. It's constantly searching for stimulation and doesn't get a lot of fulfillment. And this is Gemini, so it's in the information communication. We could be, who do we have telling us that the media is fake news? You know, a perfect North Node in Gemini. Then we have the South Node here with Saturn in Pisces, where we are getting an uptick in really an oppressive religious right being forced on the American people through this administration, and the repression of women's rights. Now we have the moon's nodes, the South Node being loss, or could be loss, or gifts from the past with Saturn and Pluto. Women are losing their rights. Is that happening in the Philippines, where we have a dictatorship? Here we have Saturn and Pluto, repression and dictatorship. We've got it in the Philippines. We've got it in Russia. We've got it in parts of Europe. Fear around immigrants. Immigrants seems to be a common thread throughout these times. Sagittarius is a religion, and also, in a way, Sagittarius is like shooting the arrow to the next philosophical destination, travel. It rules the ninth house, so it's travel, long-distance travel. You've got Saturn and Pluto here. They don't want anybody traveling around the world unless they have enough money and the correct paperwork, etc., etc. So immigration is having a hard time. Now, we're all on the planet. We're stuck here. Who says where the boundaries are and who's in charge? And in the 15, 16, 17, 18, even 1900s, it was cool to be an immigrant in the United States. They let you in. They changed your name, stamped your thing at Ellis Island, or you walked on in, and everything was great. Now, there's been a change of heart. All of a sudden, it's not okay to be an immigrant. It's not okay to come to the United States, even though the United States is a nation of immigrants. And what did we do with the Native Americans that were here? We repressed them. We killed them. We destroyed them. And we continue to destroy them every day with the environment. Look what else we have here. Uranus in Aries. Hey, last time Uranus was in Aries, we had full-blown World War II. Here it is again, every 80 years. We've got Uranus in Aries. So this is 2019, Uranus in Aries. We have all this stuff in Pisces here in the beginning of May, and it's squaring this stuff down here. But, you know, all this Pisces stuff, well, we're keeping our rosy colored glasses on while this stuff goes on. The repression, the absolute horror with the children at, the boundary that we now say is America, where it used to be Mexico. Texas was Mexico, Arizona was Mexico, New Mexico, California. White man put up a wall and said, oh, this is mine now. So a lot of repression. How are we going to be repressed? How are we going to repress ourselves? How are we going to give ourselves permission to be the highest, the best philosophical person, the best teacher, empowered in the knowledge that we are all on this planet, this whole place is our home, and we need to take care of it. We've got Uranus here in Aries wanting to break into new things, all the communications, the satellites, breaking into new territories. This is fire. We could see a pretty high fire season this summer with South Node in Sag and Uranus in Aries. There was a lot of rain this winter, so we could see a lot of fire. Right now, Mars is in Taurus, so people are feeling pretty fixed and stubborn. They're also getting a lot of stuff done. I just hope that the environmentalists can get a lot of stuff done, and that people who are into human rights can also be efficient. What did they do yesterday? Well, this is May 1st, so that was a couple days ago. Moon is probably here now. It's April 25th. This is May 1st, so moon down here. What did they do? They made it so that a woman who is raped during a war has to have the baby. They're cutting off all the funding and all the health care. How cruel can you get? I mean, this is Ivan the Trump. He's sick. I'm sorry, I'm 100% out there with my opinion because I can be, just like you can be. Okay, let's look at the next time I have. My computer is not doing what I want. This isn't actually my computer. My computer is not cooperating. Okay. And now, which one should we go to? 1759. Let's just go back chronologically. Go. $17.59. We have here North Node in Gemini. So that's the South Node in Gemini with Pluto here. Saturn is down here in Aquarius. Uranus is then going to be moving up into Aries. So 1759, so 7 years from that, 1776, there we are, Uranus in Aries during 1776 for the United States. So what happened in 1759? That was the year Britain secured, that was the year that Britain secured its world history. 1759. Naples and Sicily fell to Spain. A force under British East India recaptured Calcutta and allied themselves with Hindu bankers. The East Indian Company's force of 800 redcoats and 2,000 Indians defeat a battle. East Indian Company will now be the power behind the throne in Bengal. Bengal, and will take responsibility for collecting taxes and maintaining law and order in Calcutta. So basically what happened was England was securing its dominance in world history, where the sun never set in the English Empire. So that's what we're looking at in 1759. I'm sure there are, because the internet is Euro-centered. I'm so sorry about this. I don't know what's happening. Everything is about Europe. There's very little about China or India, although earlier, China's been going through a lot of different phases also in their trade. So trade was a big thing. In India, trade was a big thing. That's why that's why the English were there. Okay, let's go back here to the timeline. Wow, this computer seems to be doing its own thing this morning. This is unacceptable. Okay, let's go back to, this one was the most interesting. 1517. Saturn and Pluto. Gemini, North Node. Sagittarius, South Node. Almost the same exact location it is right now. There's Pluto at 25 degrees. Oh no, this says 15. Well, it would be in a couple of more years. So 1517, but the nodes are here. What happened in 1517? The Reformation of the Church began in 1517, and the Protestants arose because they were sick of the corruption from the Christian church. China increased trade with Europe. The Mongols invaded Beijing to increase trade in 1517. The Turks and Muslims, their rule in India ended in 1517. Then they focused their control over North Africa. So the Spanish and the Turkish pirates took over North Africa. Now, in this one, it says that's when the Caribbean really started doing the slave trade, this very sad slave trade to the Caribbean. But actually, when I was reading more history, it actually started much earlier. And the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire began in Turkey. There was also an anti-immigrant holiday in the United Kingdom. It was called Evil May Day, and it was on April 30th. So there was an anti-immigrant policy at that time, and also a desire for China to increase trade with the West. So here we go, Pluto and Saturn, and the South Node in Sagittarius, and then the North Node in Gemini. So people are striving to increase their information, and they want to do it through trade. There were a lot of wars and a lot of loss of life. If you were a person living in North Africa and you were going about your day, and then these grungy pirates came along and stole you and deposited you in Cuba, in the Caribbean, in Brazil, you were having the hard life. We can imagine that the life for women also wasn't an excellent time back then. Okay, let's go to 1759. In 1759, as you know, North America was still being settled by the American and the French, but there was a lot of wars at that time. They had wars in Canada, they had wars against the Native Americans, they had wars against the Spanish, everybody was trying, in Louisiana, everybody was trying to dominate. So what's happening here? North Node has been going through Gemini. It's at the end of Gemini then in 1759, so 1758. But here's Pluto finally in Sagittarius with the South Node in 1759. So we go here, 1759, let's just see. It's 1758, Japan was introduced to the sweet potato. That's good. There was a huge earthquake a couple of years ago in Portugal. Naples and Sicily fell to Spain. British arms have succeeded against the French in North America. That's the year before. And here in 1757, Calcutta, did that whole thing, and the banks and the English took over more in, they filled the space from the Ottoman Empire leaving India, and that must have been where the Pakistanis got those like Turkish hat things, if we think about it. They like to wear those little hats. There must be a leftover from the Ottoman Empire. So I don't want to make this too long. I just want to go back here to where we are now, with an oppressive dictator-like regime in the United States, what we would call the Trump administration. Saturn, South Node in Pluto, North Node in Gemini, Uranus and the Sun in Aries. Jupiter here at Conjunct, going into Sag, then going back into Scorpio, and then it will go back. By next year, 2020, we'll have this whole constellation here, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, but the node will be moving back into Scorpio, Taurus. We are at a really critical juncture right now where we have to be meditating. We have to be using our minds. We have to be thinking in a long-term situation with the Sagittarius. We have to think worldwide. Is it good to dump mining water directly into waterways? No. That's a loss for the planet. It also violates the Clean Water Act. How are we making decisions in our life that perpetuate the loss? We set up a dichotomy with ourselves. It's like, well, I've never done that. I'm never going to do that. I always do it this way. The Saturn. I always do it this way. And then the Pluto. Obsessive, compulsive, manipulative, not empowered to say, you know what? I'm done smoking. I'm done drinking. I'm going to change. I'm going to turn over a leaf. I'm going to clean up my house. I'm going to be kinder to people. I'm going to do something different with my money. I'm going to be kinder, more generous. Does the church have enough money to fix Notre Dame? Yeah. All those people with money that they raised $1 billion in a week, why don't you feed the homeless and help build camps for all the displaced Syrians that have left an oppressive regime? Russia, oppressive. Syria, oppressive. Turkey, oppressive. Trump, oppressive. Brazil, oppression. China, oppression. Russia, oppression. We are in an oppressed time. This is going to get tighter and tighter. And what can I do? I can pray and make this astrology tape that I don't know who's going to get out to. I'm very concerned, and I really want all of us to strive to be our best every single day. So take care and all the best. Namah Shivaya.